The prospect of a special session to address an alternative to the Referendum CC proposal continues to hang in the balance. If approved, the law would permanently eliminate the TABOR cap, thereby halting refunds currently expected to be returned to state taxpayers. While Referendum CC has been approved to proceed to the ballot, no discernible campaign has been mounted to date. Eric, you've been a part of a lot of campaigns in your long career. If you had to have something on this year's ballot, not next November, this November, and we're told you have to start your campaign tomorrow, is that enough time, even if it starts tomorrow, let alone a month from now, is that enough time to do any sort of campaign for a yes vote on any referendum?
It might be enough time, but you have to consider how heavy the lift is. And this is a heavy lift to pass this particular message. I'll try to be brief because Anna actually has covered this issue and probably has more substance to offer. My take is that the Democrats probably went out on a limb toward the end of the session and putting this on the ballot without necessarily putting all their ducks in a row, and are now being led by Governor Polis trying to scramble back, trying to come with a more palatable package, but they have to get some Republican buy-in, both in the legislature and in terms of broader political community support in order to pass this. Referendum C, which is now 14 years ago, which is sort of the predecessor to Prop CC, was one of the biggest campaigns the state has ever seen. It was all hands on deck. It was a coalition. It took a Republican governor in his last year, then Bill Owens, to try to push it across the finish line. There is none of this momentum here. And lastly, I'd note that we're giving a lot of attention to recalls, which I think are really sort of a peripheral issue and aren't going anywhere. I think we can all agree to that. If there's going to be a pushback or a course correction to what is maybe perceived as Democratic overreach, it's not going to happen through recalls. It's going to happen through ballot measures like this and the voters standing up and being heard, whether it's on this one or the Electoral College or on others. That's going to be the course correction, not recalls.
And as Eric mentioned, you've been covering this very well. What do we need to know about what's going on?
Well, from what I've heard, the governor isn't giving up on the idea. He's still trying to find Republicans and find consensus. But the trouble is, when you pick up a couple of Republicans, you lose a few Democrats, and it's getting to 18 votes in the Senate. That's really what it's all about at this point for a special session. And it's because Democrats say, like, they have the votes to pass it alone, right? They have majorities in both houses, but Democrats will say in the background that's political suicide. Because what the proposal is to extend CC to take the last fiscal year. And that means take the $300 to $500 million that's supposed to go out in TABOR tax refunds to all of us next summer and take that money too. And, you know, coming back in special session to take even more money is political suicide, not only for elected officials, but for the ballot initiative itself. So what Polis wants to do is couple it with a tax cut, perhaps, like an income tax cut. Maybe put a limit of 10 to 15 years on CC, the way Ref C did. So he's hoping to gather them, but in the meantime, what's happening is there is no campaign for this ballot measure because everyone's waiting to see if it changes. And in that vacuum, the opponents are out there campaigning. They are door knocking, they are calling, they are sending mailers, and they are telling everyone why you should vote no. And that's really powerful when most people don't even know what Ref CC is. So their first contact is somebody telling them to vote no.
Patty, do the drafters of Referendum CC in the legislature overestimate the hunger for something like this?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is a lot of people don't know what TABOR is. They still don't understand it. Passed in '92, but they don't really understand the ramifications. They know it gives them the right to vote for taxes, which I think is very popular. We're talking about a part of TABOR that's different here that CC would address, and it's much harder to explain. So creating a new campaign to get that through at the ballot box will be very tough. On the other hand, special sessions are no bonus either. If we look at the last one 2 years ago with the special tax districts, and that just blew up. Nothing turned out the way they thought. So it's going to be a very tricky month to decide what to do.
After several months and I think a variety of legal opinions that came out that was probably to TABOR's detriment. It seemed like TABOR was on the ropes, if you will. It seems like TABOR's having a better summer than it had spring. What do you think?
You know,
people, ever since it was put into law, there are people who don't like it. They don't like the limitation on taxation. They don't like the refunds. They don't like anything about it. And they will go through anything, whether it's a ballot initiative, whether it's a court case, to get rid of it. And you know what? I guess these are all legal means. In a sense, I suppose they're all ethical, in a sense. The fact that people want to oppose it, that's fine. That's their right. My concern is, well, I wouldn't call it a concern. I would love to see the Democrats run this. Simply because what's the message there? They want to take your refund and they want to take your presidential vote. What is that going to do? That's going to get Republicans and right-leaning independents out to vote, and Democrats that kind of like their refund, kind of like their vote, they're going to stay home. So I'd like to say,